Are you putting that online, Emily? Okay. Good to go? Good evening. It's Tuesday the 17th of June, 7 o'clock plus a couple of minutes. Sorry about that, but now we're starting. We are happy to be here tonight and looking forward to a great meeting. So we'll dispense with the roll call. Everybody's here, present, ready to go. I'd like to ask if someone would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I can do that, Mayor. Please stand.
Sure.
Please repeat the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would like to ask if anyone would like to give an invocation or offer an inspirational thought. Anyone?
I have a thought I'd like to share. If I could. I was recently in a training where Lou Holtz was quoted. Lou Holtz was the football coach at Notre Dame for several years. And considering we just finished this tour of this future subdivision, the question he asked is what's important now? To evaluate the past, focus on the future, and tell you what you have to do in the present, which I think is pretty fitting considering what we just saw. We looked at the past of Santaquin, what we need to do in the future, and that tells us what we need to do right now, and I think we're doing a lot of good things here.
Yeah.
So
That was really good. And for those of you that are wondering why we're just a few minutes late, we were able to have a work session. We started, almost 2 hours ago. And we're able to go and take a look at the Great Cliffs subdivision and the operation that they're doing right now. So it answered a lot of questions, and we'll probably hear more in the report. So we'll move on from this. I need to know if any of you want to make a declaration of potential conflicts of interest on any of the items that are on the agenda tonight. No? We're good to go then. Would like to move straight to the consent agenda. The minutes, bills, and items that we need to go through tonight, they've all been on the internet for everybody to review, as well as each of you have packets. So let's start with the June 3rd work session minutes. Did you all had a chance to take a look at those? Are there any corrections, additions, changes that you saw? Or would
I noticed one thing. I was absent for that day, and it showed me present in a vote.
Art saw that as well, and I thought it was very
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Let's move on to number 2, the regular city council meeting of that night. Any corrections, additions that you would want to add to that? Good to go. And we'll move into the bills. The 531 through 613, the amount of $1,960,529. You've had a chance to look at all those figures. I know last month's bills were a little less. This doesn't surprise me, but we're moving ahead. Any issues that you saw with those bills? Anything that stood out that we need to change? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
We've had a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Brian?
Aye.
Art?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Travis?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We'll move into the public forum. And nobody had signed up for the public forum tonight, so we will move on.
You didn't necessarily sign up, but if you have a question or whatever, ask the council as a public.
Well, that's a public forum. You should sign up, but you know what? Come up and you've got 3 minutes to go through it.
Thank you. We're relatively new to the.
We need you to give us your name and,
My name is Troy Frazier, I'm a citizen here in Santaquin.
okay?
I guess the question I kind of asked is actually the quote that you said from
Lou
the
Holtz.
coach. Could you say the quote again real quick?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find it.
Something about our past, our future, so what do we need to do now?
Yeah.
So big question, I don't have a quota, but that's a summary, right? So that I'm actually here because we moved to Santaquin because we love the past of Santaquin. We actually are kind of enjoying the culture that Santaquin had with the farms and the ranches and the orchards and that kind of stuff. And we're seeing it turn to a lot of houses and not as many of the other stuff anymore. So one of my questions is, what is the future of Santaquin? Are we looking at turning it into just all residential, townhouses, condos? Are we looking at keeping ranches, farms, places like that?
Well, in a public forum, you make that statement, but I'll take just a minute.
Okay.
Property is protected under the Constitution. If a family decides they no longer want their farm to go, they're the ones that dictate if that's going to be sold to a developer. Once a developer might own it, then they have the option. The city does not take a stance. We do not want the farms to go away. We love them the same way. I think every one of the council would answer the same. It is a decision that a property owner makes. And, as long as they meet the conditions, the zoning, and the state law,
Right.
we follow that.
No, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. I guess that partly leads to part of my question is I have property that basically was what I was understanding to be ranch or farm available, and come to find out the zoning says it's for houses, but we have a large enough space that we can do other things on it, and we're needing to go through the process of figuring out how do we change the zoning, because it got zoned for residential development versus the land that could be farmed and ranched on. We can't, the way we understand it, because of zoning restrictions. So we're having to kind of go through that. So part of my question is, am I going to go through that battle to just have the city council say, nope, we don't really want farms and ranches? Or if people own the land and it's their right to do what they want on it within the limits of the zoning, is the council cooperative in helping people get the zoning to actually match their goals? Or is it once it's zoned, you're done? I know it's but you kind of get my point. I'm just talking as quick as I can. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure this is really the forum that I can answer those kind of questions, but I do think that if you could come and meet with the planning or meet with somebody, we would be able to just go through that with where you live, and we could help you understand
started the
that.
process.
Yeah, I think maybe I can help there. I've met with the Frazier family. They're responding to a letter that we gave them. There's some uses that they're doing on their property that don't go in line with zoning. They're entertaining the idea of maybe asking for a zone change or a change to our code language, particularly as it relates to farm animals. So I think he's looking for kind of an idea from the council of how they feel about him having specifically cows on this property. It's a very large parcel. It's in the middle of a whole bunch of smaller subdivided lots. So that's really kind of where they're at with
Thank you.
their
I'm trying to
situation.
be. Yeah.
No, you're great. So I think he's looking for kind of a general idea of how you feel about particularly farm animal agriculture and specifically cows in an area like this, when right now currently the zoning does not allow for cows to be in a residential zone.
Well, and there's a reason behind that they went, and maybe somebody explained that to you. That was passed long before me because,
Right.
in my days early on, cows were okay. Somebody deemed they were stinky as well as pigs. So
Right.
pigs and cows become an issue. If you had a horse, that's the way life is.
So that's kind of the curious question. Again, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just trying to get a sense. Cows and horses actually do about the same amount of poop, to take about the same amount of work, about the same amount of effort. Cows actually are corralled and need more maintenance than if you pasture a cow. So part of my comment is, actually, I don't think so. I think actually all the stats are saying exactly the opposite. The cow actually doesn't cause as much in the winter. They both do the same. But if horses are allowed in the winter to be stalled, cows they actually do the same amount of food, the same amount of poop, the same amount of stinking. They're basically the same animal. You feed them the same. So I guess that's part of my, I want to do what I can. I don't want to I want to know if it's worth the effort to actually really dig into this and have conversations, or if we're pretty much, so
Yeah.
when I look at facts and, well, they stink. I don't disagree. I don't know about pigs, but horses, we've had horses and they actually stink, I think, more than the cows do because they're stuck in one area. But the cows, they wander around the whole pasture and they don't stink. So I guess I kind of question, is that just somebody's opinion? Is there actually been, I get it's in the zoning, but is there room for wiggle on that?
So
The only way you could do it is apply for a zone change.
that's right. And ultimately, the zone change comes to the council, and that's why he's asking the question, will the council entertain a change in zone for an agricultural zone in this location? And so one of the things to recognize is that we typically don't do what we would call spot zoning. This could be considered a spot zone in the middle of a residential area. And so because of that, is that the best thing to do? So one of the things, Mr. Frazier, just to keep in mind, these 6 people here represent 20,000 people in the city, not just one property. And so they
I'm
have
not
to
trying
take
pick
into
them.
a
I'm
look.
trying to get a sense.
Right,
Yeah.
I understand. But I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Thank you for
summarize
helping me.
again.
Thank you, yes.
All I can suggest at this time, since it's also just a public forum where we had a couple of minutes.
Right.
The best thing I would suggest that you do is to continue to work with our planning people. And then that would open a door if there was feel that it would be brought before Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the council to look at. So it's kind of like we got hit cold right now. So
Right, and I didn't mean to.
we couldn't
ambush
vote
you
on
like
it.
that.
We
Yeah.
couldn't change it. We couldn't do anything right now.
Right, and I'm not expecting that. I guess I just wanted the general sense of, is it worth the effort to go through that, or is it basically going to be met with, it's not going to happen? And because all honesty, and you don't have to answer it. I guess I'm throwing it out there because it takes effort to go through all this.
Sure.
And I don't want to put all that effort in just to annoy you guys and have it not be a thing. And at the same time, put the effort in and it works, great. Put the effort in and it's a 50-50. I guess I'm kind of getting a sense, because I don't, I'm new to this and you guys have been doing this, and I'm not asking for a policy or a vote. I guess I'm asking for an understanding, because I know it's ultimately zoning and then you guys, so that's why I'm here to kind of get a sense. Do I launch into that effort, or is it just going to be cold no matter what?
Jason, what
I think
is what is the current zoning? Do you know?
Current zoning is R10, I believe. And in order to have cows, it would need to be in one of the agricultural zones,
Wait,
either
wait.
R-Ag or agriculture.
What we social for is residential agriculture, which allows us to have the animals that we raise to eat, that type of thing. Basically, cows and horses take up the same number. We could still have cows there, or horses there if we want. Still not going to have the same stink factor for the neighborhood, but we don't want horses, we want cows, because we can eat our cows and we don't generally eat horses.
I think a lot of the questions are answered in the process. Because we'll have questions, you'll have questions. That process is to go through, take a look at everything, analyze that information, send it back to the the committee so they can see what they want. We do public hearings. I think a lot of that will be answered in that process. Does that make sense?
The other thing that gets involved with this is to change that zone, you also have to take all the people that live around you and they're sent a personal letter. They then can respond to it, how it affects them. So every neighbor would be. And the one thing that I find interesting about this is I know the guy that built that house, but he was also the developer that
Right.
put all those houses around him.
And he had agriculture on the land for years, and when we bought it, it was there. That's why we're surprised that it was zoned, so we can't.
I don't know when that changed. I have no idea. So
We've been trying to figure that out, and it ultimately looks like there was sort of a blanket rezoning that just happened, and it just hit everything. They didn't actually keep it, but no one bugged him. So he's had agriculture on it since 2001 or 2? Since 2001. And then, so that's why there's a little bit of we didn't understand this because it had been so long. He had it there.
So
Alpacas is different.
how did it come about?
He had ag, but he
in?
didn't have cows. So again, while he had some ag there, it wasn't cows.
they
So
were
that's I
llamas,
think
weren't
that's
they?
the distinction,
Was-
is that now the use is potentially changed, even though it's cows are an ag use. They weren't allowed before and weren't being done before, and I think that's really the impetus of where
But
we're
if you
at.
say 50 alpacas, how much
Well,
more
again-
stink do they have than
Yeah.
8 cows?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So that you received a letter from the city that it wasn't within code. What was the impetus for that? Was that city identifying, or was that
it was
a neighbor?
referred to us by a neighbor who was
Okay.
complaining about the cows.
So most of our neighbors, we've talked to all of them. They're all excited about the cows. They come, they bring their kids over. People look at the cows and all that.
Yeah.
And we have 2 neighbors who don't like the cows, and we've talked to them and try to resolve issues. And they basically were like, well, you know, they stink when it rains. Okay, sorry about that. And then the other neighbor just doesn't like us. So all the rest of the neighbors, they seem to. We have neighbors that 2 or 3 blocks away. They walk past the cows with their little kids to look at the cows. It's an agriculture. It's a cool thing. People like to do it. So that's why we're kind of.
My daughter.
I mean, if one neighbor's enough to shut down some cows, I guess that's another thing. I'm just a little frustrated to hear about it. That's true. So that's the milling out of all the neighbors. We're not worried about that. We're happy to do it, but that takes time and money. And I just wanted to get a sense if it's really worth it, because we're going to expect a couple that say no, and most of them won't even know or care. But bulk of them are like, yeah, we're happy you have cows. We come over and they look at the cows, etc.
The only thing I can tell you at this point, and we're over our time.
Yeah, thank you.
But let me just say this. If you feel so inclined that you could work this out and figure it out, you would almost have to have the pulse of the neighborhood with you, because they'll all be invited to come in, and you could go through the process. You have the right to go through the process, but that is time, and it will take a little bit. You have to apply to go in there. And I would suggest you get with planning, and if that's the way you want to go, you can decide that as a family. We're not prepared to do anything on it
I
tonight.
appreciate the information and the time and the more than 3 minutes. Thank you, and we were continuing that process, but thank you again.
You bet. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah,
We're
thank
glad
you.
to have you. Okay, building permit, business license report.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, Norm's going to be pulling that up. Currently, calendar year to date, we are up to 157 residential dwelling units. That's 103 single family, 54 multifamily, and then in addition, there's 2 commercial spaces. You can see compared to last year, we were at 140, so a little ahead of pace. Fiscal year, which we're getting towards the end of, in half a month, we're at 277. This time last year, we were at 238. You can see we finished last fiscal year at 246. So already going to finish ahead of where we were last fiscal year. There's only 1 new business license. It's for a commercial business. That is the Quick Quack Car Wash, which I think everybody knows where that's at.
And it's open.
Okay,
Been using it.
thank you. We could move on to resolutions. Can we go through resolution 4, the adoption of the fee schedule? Let's just go through that.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, there's 2 categories, I would say, is this of the fee schedule that you have seen. One category is for our COLA, or our cost of living adjustment that we do annually on our utility fees. That's for everything from water to sewer to PI to garbage to everything else, because those costs continue to go up, and everything from maintenance to electricity to repair, replacement, those types of things. The other items that are on the fee schedule that don't have to do with that are things like streetlights, meters, wiring for the streetlights, just a plethora of things that we continue to see just escalating costs. And so you can see that throughout the packet. I'm happy to answer any questions. I didn't plan on going into any specific detail on any of these at this time, but suffice it to say it's either a COLA related or it's cost related of increased costs that we have for yes, thank you, Jason, and for the rates of the utilities, or I'm sorry, the materials. Jason mentioned to me, and I thank you for that, Jason, is the cost of the rentals for the building. Just as a note, anything in here that's blue is proposed to be the new cost. Anything that's in red and stricken out is the old cost. As we've talked about before, we're seeing an increase in cost just from labor, cleanup, preparation, et cetera, for our multi-purpose room and not so much classrooms downstairs, but in this building, if you drive by on just about any Friday or Saturday night, we have a wedding or a reception or a dance recital or something going on, and those typically end at 10 or 10:30, And then we'll have people back in at 7 a.m. getting ready to set up for the Saturday event. And so we have to have people here during that time. We have folks in the building. If the building's rented out outside of normal operating hours, there is someone here that is a building attendant that helps us to keep track of things, make sure that the policies are being followed. You may have known in the past year and a half that we've had everything from wedding cake all over the parking lot to fireworks that have gone off. There's certain things that glitter is something that's strictly prohibited, but evidently still ends up here. I think some of that probably comes off of dresses and that kind of thing. But anyway, just know that that's where this is coming from. We are still well in line. John Bradley and looked at this and gave me a bunch of information, and Shannon and I analyzed it, and we are well in line with anything around us. In fact, we're probably too far down in costs on some of our fees. But this helps us to at least cover the cost of the cleaning and the man hours that it takes just to be able to have somebody here in the building. It's great that we're having a great success with it, but it costs us to be able to do so.
If we find the building not to our liking after an event's over, can't we do something about the deposit that's been?
We can, absolutely, and we do. Yes, we absolutely do. So we require for that room, if I remember right, it's a $500 deposit on the multi-purpose room and $100 for each one of the classrooms. That's down at the bottom. That's not changing, and we have held and either caused to be cleaned up or held deposits so that we could take care of the situation that you're describing. Yes. I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have about that, but that's a summary of where we're at with the fee schedule. I would point out also that these COLA increases that we have on here do match up with our tentative budget that has been approved, and will match up with our final budget that will come at a later date.
Okay, any questions? Had a chance to read through it. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
We've had a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Travis?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Art?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
So that passes. Now we want to bring up Resolution 0607, which is the Rodeo Club Agreement.
Mayor and council, this is one that is just a repeat of the ones that we've done for martial arts and for the cheer. Very similar agreement, but it just has different parameters for how the rodeo club helps us with our annual rodeo and what they receive in return for that. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have questions about the structure or the content of the agreement, but essentially that's where we're at. We're trying to mature our processes and make sure that we have effective agreements in place for all of those items that we need to have it for.
Any questions? We've gone over it. I know we're trying to make sure and ensure that our rodeo is held. It's held at the highest standard. I know that we just replaced all the bucking chutes. Did they get that done?
They're still working on it. It's not complete yet. And also reconstructing the stock holding area on the east end. They're doing a considerable amount of work in there, and it's looking really good.
Yeah,
It will be ready for the rodeo.
Glade Nelson told me that when he was the mayor, he was proposing to move all the grandstands from the Ute Stampede up here so we would have those. Or did I just imagine that, Glade? Don't say a word. Take that back without a word. No. Thank you for coming tonight, too. It's good to see you. Any questions on this rodeo agreement? I think we've been working with them, trying to get everything we could in line. No questions, then I'd ask for a motion.
So moved.
Had a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Travis?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Art?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Motion passed. Now, those are the issues that we needed to go over. So what I'd like to do is jump straight in. Is there anything that we're missing right here?
No, that's everything on the agenda. We can move into reports, and then we're going to have need for a closed session.
Okay. And we're good to go
Yep.
then? Okay.
Yep.
Why don't, Jason, do you want to go first?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, upcoming DRC meeting, we're anticipating, we have the, let's see, we will have the data center site plan. I know there's some work being done to give them red lines. It may or may not be on the agenda, but we are working to give them input so that they can, make progress moving forward. They do have a complete application. It may be on that meeting, but based on the input we give them, it may not be ready to be on the meeting, and there may be significant red lines they need to address. So we're trying to work through an iterative process with them to help them get through that review process. So that is in the works, and I guess we'll see if it's on the actual agenda or not.
And I had about a 30-minute conversation with them this morning regarding water lines and fire flows and all the red lines that we've given them, building types. They're still working on that. So I anticipate, like Jason said, it's just going to be a matter of when they resubmit. If they resubmit in time that we have time to review it, it will be on the next DRC. If not, it'll be the following. But they are continuing to move down that road.
I want to chase one other thing on my own with this, but would you send me the information on the building type and square footage? And
I don't have that yet. As soon as I have it, I will get it to you.
When you get it.
Yeah.
I want to follow another
Sure.
thing down a
Sure.
rabbit hole. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're continuing to work with the M-Source Commercial Subdivision. They're anticipating having a final plan, phase 1. This is going to be the first 4 lots of that subdivision. If you remember, there's a 5th lot, which will not be a lot yet. It's anticipated to be a parcel that they're trying to work through some things on that particular spot. But the first 4 lots, they would like to move forward with getting those platted, so that may be on as well. Silver Creek Design Industrial Park Site Plan. This is another one of the industrial park lots that is getting ready to have a site plan reviewed. That's DRC. For Planning Commission. Last meeting we held a public hearing regarding agritourism in most zones. That's something the Planning Commission reviewed, gave some feedback. We're going to incorporate that feedback and try and get it out. Legal counsel, that's something that I will have legal counsel start looking at based on kind of the first look at it. We also want to take some of those notes from that meeting and give it to some of the agricultural users in town that are interested and would qualify for doing some level of agritourism on their farm. So continuing to work through that, I would expect that maybe Planning Commission could be ready to make a recommendation next meeting, so you could expect this topic to be on your agenda next meeting for you to consider. Again, this is an ordinance code amendment that would allow for agritourism, and there'd be conditions that would accompany that land use. And if you're interested to know more about it, or you have questions about this, feel free to reach out to me, or I know Jeff will be there kind of as part of his regular duties, but there's certainly going to be some discussion at Planning Commission that you might find interesting. Aside from that, I think that's all that I have to report tonight.
Okay. Norm?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, quite a few things. I just want to publicly state again that the council is considering a property tax increase this year. That the public hearing for that potential property tax increase will be on August 7th. That's a Thursday night, 2025 at 7 p.m. I also wanted to mention it publicly that we just had 3 candidates file for office. It happens to be the 3 incumbents. So the mayor filed for mayor, Jeff and Art both filed for city council positions. Because of that, we will not have a primary election. We still have the opportunity is still there that folks can still sign up as a write-in. If that should happen, we will hold a general election. If not, we will not hold a general election. But I just want to make sure that we remember that your conduct, you are still candidates. So your conduct still remains, as we talked about before. You should not be using your city emails or anything to campaign or seek donations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just all that stuff still applies because you're still a candidate until you're not a candidate anymore and you happen to be an elected official, a re-elected official. So just keep that in mind. I did want to mention to you, some of you probably have seen that Centracom has moved their work from the East Bench over to Summit Ridge. That was a little bit of a shocker to me, but they ended up having some crews and availability, so they moved that over. They're doing the micro trenching. They're also doing fiber installation, similar to what Comcast has been doing, but they're doing it in a different manner. And so you'll see that going on over in the Summit Ridge area, trying to get our, if you remember the kind of the bullseye effect that we have of all the areas that don't have fiber available to them, they're trying to fill those areas in as well for competitive fiber access for our residents. Main Street update, you may have seen last week or earlier this week, they poured the curb on and gutter on the north side. The plan right now is to pave Saturday on that north side. So that's, I can't guarantee that, but that's where we're moving towards right now, and then immediately shifting traffic over there, and then moving to the south side to start tearing out curb and gutter, putting power underground. They're working on that right now, and just kind of moving along that project similar to what we did last year. Although last year we did the south side and then the north side. This year we've done the north side and now the south side. The south side should go faster because there's no new water line to put in over there like we have on the north side. They kind of had some weather challenges with some big swimming pools there on the north side, had to get that dried out to be able to put the fill in there. And so things are moving along. It's a little slower than what they wanted, but still planning on easily finishing up this year because they've had a fairly favorable winter time. I would also remind you that we have a budget closeout meeting on Monday, June 30th, and that meeting is at 5:30 p.m. You should have that on your calendars. If you don't, please make sure, and Emily or I will get it to you. But 5:30 p.m. on the 30th, which is a Monday, and then we will have our regular council meeting the following day on July 1st, Tuesday at 5:30 and 7. That's all I have for now, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
No questions? Okay, Ryan.
I don't have any updates.
Okay, Art.
Mountain Eagle Water Agency is going to have a meeting with a lot of elected officials invited on Tuesday, July the 1st at noon in the Spanish Fork Library upstairs conference room. I think it's prudent that those that need to be attend. I'm concerned about the dryness and the heat that's we're experiencing. If I heard the news correctly, there's been 218 fires in the state of Utah. That's at least 217 too many. Not a popular thing, and it probably won't happen based on some previous conversations I've had, but I would submit that maybe we should consider whether or not we have fireworks. I'm concerned about the WRF, our water reclamation facility. We're expanding it a little bit now to cover the increase that occurs on one day of the week. But with the growth that I see happening, it's often been said by the city manager that we're the beneficiaries of those that preceded us in their foresight. And I think we owe that to those that follow us. I think we need to be more involved and more actively pursuing a greater expansion than the WRF to cover the growth that will come, and we've seen part of that tonight. A reminder about Hometown Market starts on Monday, June the 30th. And then I just have a personal question. Are we ever going to have a ribbon cutting or an opening for Murdoch Ford?
I went out and asked them about that in particular, and encouraged them when they started their sales out there this past week. And as a family, they decided to wait until it was right for their family. And they said, we may do it in a week or two, it may be 30 days, it may be 90 days. We want to make that decision, and they have Jim Rowland's phone number, and they want to
Okay.
to arrange it with them.
It looks like a lot of things have moved off of Main Street. I know the Ford Oval has been taken down,
Yeah.
so it looks like a lot of things have transferred.
You need to go out. It's really
It's nice.
a good. I've even had my car fixed out there already, so It's quite an operation.
Are they still doing business on Main Street?
No.
It doesn't appear to be, so they've moved everything
It
down
looked
south.
vacant.
Yeah.
Ends up saying new location.
Okay, I didn't see the signs. Okay. Thank you.
So Mayor, can I just address one thing on the fireworks? I would remind staff and council members and the mayor and the public, we have areas of the city where there are no fireworks allowed. The East Bench, Summit Ridge, and other areas. Please look on stop signs, speed limit signs, other places where the fire department has done a very good job of posting the signs where firework restrictions are at. You will also find a map online of those same fireworks restrictions. So I echo your sentiment as I look up there and go, oh, well, things are drying out. And so I would just remind folks that we do have fireworks restrictions, and there's a reason for that. We're not trying to put your liberties and freedom in check. We're trying to keep the hillside from burning and having hillsides from burning and having burned over conditions that then cause flooding and debris flow in our summer storms. So I would just echo that. Thank you, Art.
Okay, anything else?
Nope, thank you.
Jeff?
Just saw this because you're talking about the fires. With the canyon open, a lot of people are going up there, and I've seen a lot of complaints that people are leaving their fires smoldering and not
Yes.
putting them all out. Do the rangers do any sort of rounds up there? Or?
I talked with the forest ranger today in our meeting about that.
Okay.
And he says, we are seeing this all over the place. And I said, well, put some more signs up or provide a little can and say, listen, silly, put your fire out. You've got a stream 10 feet away from
Yeah.
it. You know, I don't know why people are doing this.
Well, they probably haven't been up in the canyon for a few years and they forgot the etiquette.
At least 7. Yeah.
So I don't know. Just maybe the city can put out a reminder on social media saying, canyon's beautiful. Let's keep it that way. We don't want to burn it down again. So I don't know. Just
I agree with
something.
that. Yeah.
And other than the hometown market, that's all I had.
Okay. Lynn?
Nothing for me.
Travis?
I have a couple things. This is late, but late in May, the library kicked off its summer reading program at the library, and they had 600 signups that initial day, and since then, as of June 11th, they had 1,350 people signed up for summer reading. I also got to try something I've never done before, face painting on children. I know, right?
Did we get that on
Do you
video?
do it on adults
They
a lot, or-
lined up to have me paint their faces.
Really?
Yes.
They don't know you very well, do they?
Yeah. Also, YCC, we are working on officer changes.
Did you get a hold of Doug Welton on the YCC and the
Scholarships.
and the addition? I would like a report on that and maybe even the dollar amount for what they were able to
I
do.
haven't heard, but I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, I talked to him. We gave him some information, but I didn't get a reply
Yeah,
back. I think it'll be good.
I'll reach out to Doug and ask.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Good.
that's all I've got.
Thank you. I just had a couple of things, and I spent an hour that I wasn't really sure I wanted to, but it was on motorcycles and kids in town in some of the neighborhoods where they're doing the same things I did as a kid. And, you know, so it's kind of hard for me to talk about this, but there's a lot more traffic nowadays than there was when there was only 900 people in the city when I was young. And it's scary when people call me and they say, "Oh, they're blowing right through the stop signs. They're racing through them, doing wheelies down the road." I've never done that. You know, there is a place, and you know, they even went to the parents in a couple of these issues, followed the kids home and said, you know, these kids are really young, but they're doing 40, 50 miles an hour past our home. You know, it's not like the guy in the car that hits them is going to sustain the damage that the kid on the motorcycle is going to. We used to call it the rule of lug nuts. He with the most lug nuts wins. And I just fear that we've got a message out there that this city is wide open for motorcycle race and anything. And there are things that I can tell you about kids that I've tried to deal with lately, you know, that have been extremely unkind. And I didn't want to speed down the road to catch them and throw them off the bike and paddle their backside and take them to their moms, but it surely would have felt better. You know, when you get flipped off for wanting to go talk to them, that's not cool. Especially when they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And we're seeing a lot of destruction. It almost goes to some of the leave your campfire going kind of attitude.
And it's just not motorcycles, it's electric bikes and electric scooters and all kinds of stuff.
The little scooters are almost scary. You know,
Golf
I don't know how we deal with it, but we lose one child in this town. Shame on us. I don't know how many times we could talk about this, but we've got to figure out a way to take care of it and either educate them or suffer the consequences. And you know, the reason is it's always been the bench is open, Pole Canyon is open. You know, you're free to take off, go up the main canyon because the road's open now. But you get caught in the main canyon riding a dirt bike, and especially if you're young, well, that's about $1,000 you'll pay plus the impound fee for the bike. And that's the way they're looking at it right now. The other thing is most people that watch our council meetings have realized that, oh, that bench isn't all BLM or forest ground. It's about half private property. And so you can't hardly tell a kid, hey, go up there, ride around, do whatever you want. It's forest land. No, it isn't. Half of it is private ground. Most of Pole Canyon is private ground. And so even getting off the roads is an issue, but it's responsibility that we need to figure out how to teach. I'm not sure how we're going to get around to it. I think we're nearly at an impasse with the ability to enforce some things, but we need to figure out a way to get this word out. I just do not want to lose a child, you know?
Years ago, the Forest Service used to contract with the Sheriff's Office and do patrols up the canyon. Does that still exist?
Well, actually, the local Forest Service right now has a law enforcement division. She lives in Genola and makes regular trips up the canyon.
Okay.
And they're not opposed to giving a ticket and loading your bike up. So they're doing their part in some of this, but wouldn't it be nice that families didn't lose an investment in a motorcycle, but more so lose an investment in a child?
Yes.
And I just, you know, as much as you say, well, we live in Santaquin, we're okay, that's the way life is. Well, that's the way life is, or was a little more open years ago, but to be honest with you, we're still in a law-filled society, and we need to make sure that we're not teaching the right things or sustaining the wrong thing that is going to make this work. So,
Just to piggyback on that, we did pass an ordinance not too long ago dealing with that because we were having trouble, but it doesn't solve the problem. It still needs to be put out there a lot more often, like you said, because there's still people breaking that ordinance every day in town, and I don't know how we stop all of that, but we do have an ordinance.
well, and the enforcement of some of those, especially when you're talking about a 6-year-old kid speeding down the road, they're turned over to the juvenile court, they get a slap on the wrist, and they're out on their bike that afternoon.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out, you know, how do we handle some of these things? Because again, I don't want to lose that one kid.
No.
You know, there's not one I would pick out and say, oh, take him. Because that's just not right. We've got to figure this out. So we need to maybe revisit that. We need to maybe meet with the chief and have a talk. What can we do? How can we get the word out? We do have a officer that is on this council, he may know how to do things like that just easily.
He retired.
He's a salesman now.
Look at that lady with the great big smile back there. You know what? I just feel strongly that I want to be careful.
No, I think we could have a conversation and talk about what we can and what we can't do.
Okay.
So,
Moving on, CUP, the tie-ins looked like they're doing the east connection or started that today, so they should be pulling into the CUP right there in Spring Lake on Highway 6. That tie-in from there to the freeway will, I think, go rather fast. Does that mean the last item that we're going to see is the connection to the pipes and the valve center that's going to be right there at the end down by Reservoir 1?
No, there's two essential segments that they're working on right now. The one is the picking station, and then our connection into our park property. The other one is over on Highway 198. They are on the other side of the freeway towards 198. They have not finished that leg over there yet either.
Oh, really? Because today I saw them cutting the defoliating all the way from the highway back to the freeway. So
Yeah.
they're getting ready to
Yeah.
dig and drop.
Those are the two areas. As soon as they get done with the picking station or getting the pipe to the picking station over here on the southwest side of town, they'll be moving in those two directions.
What was the dates? They were looking more at August and September to do the cofferdams and the
Yeah,
tie-in
after the reservoir goes down
so
in
they're probably
elevation.
going to empty the reservoir right down to nothing.
I would imagine they'll be working on that after the irrigation season.
Yeah, so
At
first of
October sometime, yeah.
Okay, so we're still looking. They're on track to hit first of next year to blow the pipe out and do all the testing they need to.
Yep.
Okay.
And we will have 1 year of test water
Yeah.
that we will be working off of likely next year.
Okay. So it seems like everything else is really right on schedule with them right now. I think we have some good things going that way. There's a meeting next week with the UDOT Transportation
Commission, yep.
Commission, and we'll be spending one day. We don't know which day it is, Thursday or Friday next week. We've presented phase approach to help us with some of the, but we need to know what their whole attitude with funding and where we can possibly go. So the District 3 guys have been all appraised. We met with all the engineers. Everything's moving up the scale very fast, and I'm happy we're way beyond that's 30 years out.
Absolutely.
So, I think we're on a win-win, and look forward to that. We've got other projects going and good businesses. We're going to have another business start building here very shortly, and it looks like John Jensen's underway with ready to get that one under construction. So
Yep.
feels pretty good. CUP tie-in. Okay, that is it. Now, that's kind of the end of our regular meeting. However, we need to excuse into a closed session. And this is to, there's two options. One is to discuss the character, professional competence, physical, mental health of an individual, deployment, security, well, maybe that one doesn't apply.
It's just the next.
So it's the, maybe called for reasonable imminent litigation, collective bargaining, and/or purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, a proposed development agreement, a project proposal, and a financing proposal related to the development of land owned by the state. I would entertain a motion to adjourn to a closed session.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, Brian.
Aye.
Art,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
Now, at the close of the closed session, we will then, it's 8:12, by the way, and at the close of the closed session, the council will reconvene in here where we will close this meeting out officially. So thank you for coming. We'll take a couple of minute break while we move into some chambers to have a closed session. And Glade, it's good to have you here tonight. So